reaction. Okay. Sige. So the first one, ang gagawin niyo supposedly sa inyong experiment, magkakandak dapat. Pero since wala, basahin nyo na lang yung inyong procedure, and then in the procedure, you will be identifying the reactants. So yes, this is correct. The reactants are the zinc and the copper sulfate. And if these two react, remember class, in single replacement reaction ito, you have to make sure first that the replacing element is more active or more reactive than the original element in the compound. So if you review your activity series of metal, you will see there that indeed zinc is more reactive than copper, and so the reaction is possible. So this one is the correct one, the correct answer. Pwede niyang palitan si copper. That's why we have here the zinc sulfate plus the copper. Now for number 2, you have seen in the video the rest ng mga experiment. I'll try to look for videos in YouTube na lang later so that you will also see how the procedures are conducted in the lab. So sa letter B, yes, this one is a combination reaction. In the procedure, you have to get a magnesium ribbon. I hope you watched the video presented by the reporters just a while ago so that you have a picture of what magnesium ribbon is. And then to do the combination reaction, we have to subject it to heating directly in the Bunsen burner. So we will have here magnesium, the reaction of magnesium plus the oxygen will give you the magnesium oxide. And yes, kung lalagyan natin ng arrow dito, this one is the correct chemical equation. It's a balanced equation. Now for letter C, this one is a decomposition reaction class. But we only have one compound here, the copper sulfate. And then in the crystal of the copper sulfate, there is 5 molecules of water being incorporated. So we call this copper sulfate pentahydrate. Penta means 5, hydrate means water. Now, if we subject it to heating, definitely water will evaporate, and that will be a decomposition reaction because copper sulfate will remain, but the water will be separated. So you will have there 5 molecules of water being separated from the original compound. So yes, this one is also correct. Now, for the third one, letter D, double replacement or double displacement reaction, parehas lang yan sila. Our reactants will be the potassium iodide, and then you will have the lead nitrate reacting with each other. So yes, these two are correct here. And then, since double displacement ito, exchange partner sila. So, potassium will now partner with the nitrate, thus this is correct, potassium nitrate, and lead will have now iodine. So, this one is also correct, lead iodide. So, this is 2Ki plus PbNO3, 2 yielding 2 potassium nitrate plus lead iodide. Double displacement. Pero parang may kulang kasi dalawa, di ba yun, ang nasa procedure? Reporters, please review. The next procedure is you have to get another test tube, and then ang reactants doon ay silver nitrate. Also, lahat, everyone, I hope you have included the second example for the double displacement. Silver nitrate, and then you have there, ang ia-add is sodium chloride. So the same thing, since this is still a double displacement or double replacement reaction, they will just have exchanging of partners. So silver will be now partnered with chloride, and that sodium will be partnered with the nitrate. Now, since AgCl and NaNO3 are correct chemical formula, you can check it with our past lessons, right? Do not forget if you do the double displacement, you have to check first the positive and the negative charges. You exchange their partners, and you have to go back with the charges to finalize the chemical equation or chemical formula of the products before you will balance the equation. So since I assure you these are correct chemical formula, then no need to check na and no need to actually balance kasi this is also already balanced. So I hope hindi nyo na-miss out yan sa inyong submitted na experiment number 3. The second equation for letter B. Okay? Okay, now, yes, Jamuel.
Sa letter B po ata ma'am, dalawa po yung
letter B.
Reaction. Yes po.
Letter B. Yeah, tama di ay. Yeah, I missed that out. Aside from the magnesium plus oxygen, meron pa tayo. So taas ko na lang ilalagay ha. So what are the reactants for letter B? The first one is you have to get calcium oxide. You have to place that one in a laboratory apparatus and then you have to add distilled water. So these are the reactions for the second experiment for letter B. And then, syempre, this one is also a combination reaction wherein mag-yield yan siya ng calcium hydroxide. So this is the correct chemical equation for letter B. This one is already balanced. You have 1 calcium, 2 oxygen, 2 hydrogen. So balanced siya on both sides. And then again, this is also a combination reaction. Okay, and then let's move on to the precipitation reaction. Do not forget, class, precipitation reaction is still under the double displacement or double replacement. However, we need to check here whether there will be a precipitate na ma-form or wala. Okay, actually the reactions can happen. They are possible. Wait lang. This one is possible, pero again, ang tinitingnan natin kung may precipitate ba na ma-form or wala. So for the first procedure, you have their lead nitrate to be reacted with potassium iodide. Syempre, exchange partner sila, kagaya nitong equation. Actually, parehas sila na equation, no? You will still have the lead iodide. And if you search, class, lead iodide is not soluble in water. It's a solid one. And while the potassium nitrate is in aqueous solution. So definitely, since you have there a solid substance na formation, this one is a precipitation reaction. Pero tama pa rin ito, double displacement, kasi yun naman talaga ang tawag sa kanyang type of reaction. Specific lang siya na precipitation kasi may magfo-form na solid substance. So itong second, actually possible din yung reaction. Kaya lang ilalagay lang natin NR kapag walang precipitate na ma-form. So if we really want to write the chemical equation for this, aluminum will be partnered with iodine. So you will have AlI3 kasi positive 3 si aluminum, negative 1 si iodine. So mag-cross sila, diba? Kaya magkakaroon ng 3 dyan. And then, potassium will now be partnered with the nitrate. So no need for a subscript because they are both 1. Positive 1 si potassium, negative 1 si nitrate. So ito yun siya. And then potassium nitrate will always be in aqueous solution. And if you want to check if you are going to research the properties of aluminum iodide is soluble in water. And since it's soluble in water, class, this will also be in aqueous solution and that wala kang solid na makikita na substance. That is the reason why the answer of the reporters here na NR is correct. Kasi if you look at the procedure sa worksheets ninyo, ang nakalagay doon, if walang precipitate na ma-form, just write NR. Okay? So tama yan. Now we have letter B. This is still under the precipitation reaction. But remember, precipitation is still double displacement. This is Na. Maliit ha. And then, sige, we have their copper sulfate plus NaPO4 or the sodium phosphate. So exchange partner sila. Copper will now have the phosphate. And then sodium will be partnered with, copper will have the phosphate and sodium will have the sulfate. And then, paano nyo malalaman na merong solid nanoform? You can actually research kasi since hindi natin talaga siya nakandak sa laboratory kasi nga bawal, ang trabaho nyo actually is to research whether the formed substances are soluble in water or not. Si sodium sulfate, always yan siya soluble in water. You can look sa mga sites no, kung soluble ba talaga siya. But yes, soluble siya. Remember yung mga members ng group 1 in the periodic table, sodium, potassium, lithium, they are all soluble in water. So since may sodium siya, soluble. But if you research class for the copper phosphate, you will see there that it is insoluble in water and thus it will become a solid substance in the reaction. And if it is a solid substance, we call it precipitate. So this is correct. Correct din ito, double displacement pa rin. May precipitate lang tayo na form. And then, we have here aluminum nitrate plus sodium phosphate. Ganon pa rin. Double displacement reaction pa rin tayo. So, exchange partners. Aluminum will have the phosphate and sodium will have the nitrate. So, always remember, sodium belongs to group 1 in the periodic table and always yan siya soluble in water. So this is still in aqueous form. However, if you research the property of aluminum phosphate, you will see there, class, that it is not soluble in water. So it will remain as solid. It will become a precipitate. So among the 4 reactions that we have in our experiment supposedly, ito lang isa ang hindi magfo-form ng precipitate. That's the NR. Okay? The reaction is still possible but you cannot observe the formation of the precipitate there. Okay? And then gas forming reaction. Actually, this is still under the double displacement. Pero, ano siya? To be specific, this one is a neutralization reaction because our reactants are sodium bicarbonate is base while hydrochloric acid is syempre an acid. So if magkakaroon sila ng reaction, the first part of the reaction will just be exchange partners. So this one is correct, sodium chloride plus carbonic acid. However, carbonic acid can be degraded. It can be decomposed into water and carbon dioxide. So yes, this is also correct, reporters. The first part of the reaction will be double displacement, exchange partners sila. Pero after some time, carbonic acid will be decomposed. Thus, there is a gas formation because the decomposition product, carbon dioxide, is a gas. Okay? And then lastly, letter E, the combustion. Actually, ang first part lang nun, ang combustion. Yung candle, yung wax. Okay? Wax plus, sisindihan natin siya, right? So, susunugin natin siya. Yun lang yung combustion reaction doon. Actually, if nag-research kayo, you will see sa internet the chemical equation for the experiment na gumamit ng candle. So, for the wax, actually, it's C18H38 plus syempre the oxygen kay combustion reaction man siya. Always yan siya mag-produce ng carbon dioxide and water. So, ang gagawin mo na lang for the equation is to balance the equation. So, to give you the balanced equation, since I have limited space in the screen, the balanced equation for the first part of the procedure is 2C18H38 plus 55 moles of oxygen. This will yield 36 molecules of carbon dioxide and 38 moles of water. That is supposedly the equation for the wax or the candle experiment. Pero actually, ito, hindi talaga siya ito combustion reaction. Palitan natin, nasaag ang procedure class. Pero I will consider this since ang procedure ang nasaag. Copper carbonate is actually under ito siya sa decomposition. Bakit siya decomposition? We will obtain copper carbonate, we will place it in a test tube, di ba? And i-heat natin siya on top of the Bunsen burner. So ang mangyayari sa kanya, magde-decompose actually si copper carbonate. Ang kanyang decomposition products, actually this one is correct. Copper oxide plus carbon dioxide. So palitan lang natin siya ng decomposition reaction. Do you have questions and the answers on the screen? Mahirap no kasi babasahin nyo lang siya. Hindi nyo talaga siya na-observe in the lab. That is why I am looking for the videos, even coming from the YouTube, kasi makikita niyo naman yung videos ng experiment na ito sa YouTube. Walang question? Can we move on to the guide questions? Let's see the answers of the reporters. If tama. Question number 1. Ma'am, sa type of reaction, pwede... okay lang din. Okay lang din, Jamwell. Like for example, doon sa precipitation talaga ang nilagay ninyo, and then neutralization for the gas-forming reaction, okay lang. Pero do not forget na both of them are under the double displacement reaction. Okay? Okay, guide question number 1. What evidence do you have that the color of copper sulfate pentahydrate is related to the presence of water in the crystal? As your answer, the presence of water in the crystals determines the color appearance of the copper sulfate sample. If copper sulfate pentahydrate appears to be blue crystalline granules, it correlates that water is present in the sample. On the other hand, if the color is white, then the water has evaporated or is absent. Actually, that is true. If you will see copper sulfate and it is color blue class, it will always have water in its crystals. So you will have the evidence when you subject it to heating, and then remember, if you subject water to a high temperature, it will evaporate. And you will see in the experiment later, I will look for videos na mag-change ang kanyang color once the water evaporates. It will turn into white. So the color of copper sulfate is correlated to the presence of water. Blue pag meron, white pag wala. Would you predict that the ash formed when magnesium burned would have a greater or lesser mass than the original piece of magnesium metal? Why? Actually, it will have a greater mass. The ash will have a greater mass. Why? Because for the magnesium ribbon, sa magnesium ribbon, magnesium lang talaga siya. But once na sinunog mo siya and naging ash siya, this ash is called magnesium oxide. So you will have the addition of oxygen there. So you will really expect that the weight will not be the same. Nag-add ka man ng oxygen, so mag-i-increase talaga. The weight of the ash will be greater than the weight of the magnesium ribbon because of the added oxygen. And then what evidence do you have that the product of calcium oxide and water is basic rather than neutral or acidic? Now, if you read class the procedure of the experiment, you can see there that after adding water to calcium oxide, you have to test the solution using the litmus paper. So you can identify that it is really basic because the pink litmus paper will turn, or the red or the pink litmus paper will turn to blue. So that's how you know na ang product niya pala ay basic. So yan yung tatlong questions for the activity. Any questions? The next part is we'll have the videos. I'll look for videos na lang na experiment.